Hello everybody, this is Matador from freetradingvideos.com. It is Sunday, the 26th of April, and I wanted to sort of do D7's weekly event here and post a video up on what I think about the daily, weekly, monthly charts of the S&P 500 specifically. We can again take apart the ETF, and we'll do that right now. So one thing I wanted to talk about going into next week is the economic calendar. So we have consumer confidence. This is nothing on the 27th, which is Monday. The 28th, however, like I said, consumer confidence. S&P, Case-Shiller Home, AM, price index. This is GDP. On the 29th, chain deflator, crude inventories, and then on the 29th also a big one here is the FOMC rate decision. So watch out for that. And then it kind of just goes through initial claims, personal income, so on and so forth. So Yahoo Finance is a great place to go. Simply click on investing, drop down to stocks, and you can get it right here at economic. There's also earnings dates, all right, coming up, and you can look at next week. And you can see all the things. By the way, if you hear lots of screaming kids running around happily, it's because they are. They're in the basement right now. So anyway, just sort of filter that out if you can. Anyway, so you can go through all the things, all the companies that are reporting earnings for any of these days coming up. And that can be very, very helpful because sometimes a bellwether stock will announce, for instance, a Baidu of instance, and you can kind of watch how those earnings affect the market and how the market digests that news, whether it was good, in line, or poorer than expected, and that's a good thing to do. So take a look at that as well. And as far as the broad markets themselves go, here's the S&P on a daily chart, the S&P 500. What a great last couple weeks and in the month here. So a big run up to resistance, made higher lows through here. But like I said before on my daily videos, even though we've broken out of some of this gap resistance back here, that was a great one with a good symmetrical triangle failure, worked through that. We're basing again on this great resistance level here. Another good resistance point will be, of course, this unfilled gap back here, and this whole thing becomes an area. So on the way back up, there you go. So that's the daily chart, and if you take a look at a weekly, that is a 1, I'll zoom in here a bit, 1, arguably 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 day run-up, basically, 7-week run-up into great resistance. And again, that's exactly what we saw on the previous chart. In fact, if you take this weekly chart right here and scrunch up a daily, what's it going to look like? It's going to look like the exact same pattern, just more data, right? So that would perfectly overlay on this. All the same swing highs and lows were made, and you would see that perfectly. So when you zoom in, you're simply refining what's happening on the last few bars of a weekly chart. And so if I take this and I look at it, there's that same resistance right in this area. And then kind of zoom in and look, you can see where the 50 MA is failing here. Another good thing to do is to take one more step out. Let's look at a monthly chart. Grab that, and that's where we are right now, sort of. So take this whole event, 1, 2, 3, arguably 4, 5, 6 bars in a row down. Now we have just 2 little bars popping up here, and if you look at the retracement, I can see without doing this here, the 50-yard line in this case, which is a great one to look for, corroborates almost perfectly with the 100 MA, or the $100 mark, the century mark. And so a huge amount of resistance going into that $100 mark as well, even on top of all the other things that are going on. So are we going to get a retracement all the way back up to the $100 mark in the S&P ETF? Go back to a weekly chart. That'd be asking quite a lot without another couple swing lows in here that were higher, hopefully, as we march toward that. So there's the same mark I put in. That would corroborate perfectly with a declining 50 MA as it's declining. So watch out for what's going on over the next few weeks here. I want to watch how the market digests news like it has been so nicely, keeping this high base. Again, like I said before, any high base can fail almost immediately. And you get a huge sell-off because all the people who thought that we were being bullish right now all of a sudden change their mind rapidly and start selling. All right, so that can happen. Just be careful about how you're long and short in your stocks and keep your protective stops. And if you're looking for a breakout, realize where your overhead resistance is, and look at all the other overhead resistance you have coming into play here, coming up here, which is what we just did on a larger time frame. So that's my take on the market. If you look at the VIX, which is a nice thing to do also in corroboration with the markets. You can see where we came from. Great symmetrical triangle in here. Let me just grab this. That is a good one there. This whole thing becomes an area now, which I'm going to be watching into the future. So we had a huge one back here. We failed out of that. This becomes resistance. I'll zoom in here a little bit. Like that. There we go. So you can see that does hit that resistance, fails, made a lower swing high, but now this whole thing becomes a new pattern. And if you draw this in a different way with more data points that we have in our camp, there's a whole nother level of symmetrical triangle that has now failed, and that's why we have a resistance point right through here. That's what we hit over the last week. Alright, so be careful again. If we get a lower swing high and it fails the support, that would be the first time I would be looking for a bigger move to the upside in the broad markets. And that would have to be confirmed by the trend and the trend Q as well. But if we see it creeping back up here and starting to work its way past all this resistance, then again that's going to put a little damper on what I think the sentiment read is on the broad market itself. So very good. Watch for these breakouts. See if they're confirmed. And now you can hear the Wii system at volume 1000, so you can again filter that out for me. But it's a great day here. Anyway, that's my take on the broad markets. Hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend, and I'm looking forward to talking to you over the next few days. And take care.